Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in this big, beautiful world that God created. Welcome to UltraLife Today. We're having an engaging conversation that's a continuation from last week with our dear friend, Mary Jane Frye. She's a PharmD, a nutritional consultant. We have wedged her in between us so that she cannot escape the studio. And no, we haven't been here for a full week. And I've got Adam Payne on the other end of the table. And,
hey, Josh.
What's going on today?
Oh, it's another beautiful day.
Yeah. It is, actually.
And I'm really looking forward to taking this conversation to the next level. There was a story that you shared with us early on. We have a product called EndoLift.
Exactly.
Which was developed by a guy named Charles Gant. He's a MD, PhD, ND, and a couple of other things. And his whole focus has been on brain health and neurotransmitters, addiction medicine. And he developed EndoLift as essentially the idea is, well, neurotransmitters are made of amino acids. And if we provide all the building blocks for those amino acids in abundance, maybe the brain will make those neurotransmitters quicker, faster, better. And I used to think that the rate of replenishment of neurotransmitters and these structures in the brain or in the body was dependent upon some enzymatic rate of a limited rate of how quickly the enzymes, the Golgi process could essentially build these structures and replenish. What we found was that the replenishment, if you provide the building blocks, the body, the brain rebuilds these neurotransmitters very, very quickly. Like within 5 minutes, you get a huge boost of it. So we developed EndoLift as a way of providing a gradient in the blood that is 10 times higher than what's normally there, right? And so the idea is these 6 amino acids are the precursors for the enkephalin system and the dopamine system in the brain. And people that take it, they get a boost in their endorphins. The enkephalins are part of the endorphin system. Get almost an immediate feeling of well-being. The world seems...
Reduction of stress, organized thoughts.
Everything feels good. I call it a runner's high in a cup.
Yeah.
But and we were just kind of bouncing along with it, thinking, oh, we're going to make the world a happier place. And then you told a story about this gal. Could you recount that story for us?
So this woman had a cancer that the doctor had said she could not take estrogen again. And she was in her 30s at the time.
So this was an estrogenic-based cancer.
Right. So she, it wasn't a endometrial cancer or anything like that. It was a different cancer. I can't remember the exact name. But so she had not been sleeping for years, 13, 14, 15 years, something like that.
Wow.
And
that will age you in a hurry. That's horrible.
EndoLift came along and I said, here, try these samples. And within 10 days, she was sleeping.
Wow.
So, and she still uses it. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's something that you remember, Adam. It was one of my friends in Arkansas. He and his grandfather, who was dealing with cancer, intuitively his grandfather said, I'm just going to try this stuff at night. There's nothing in it that can keep me awake. And they were both wearing those watches, that measure when you go into
REM sleep and all that
when
stuff.
You go into your phases and how long you stay there. And sure enough, he did it for a couple of days and said to his grandson, he's like, or his nephew actually, he goes, this is amazing. You got to try it. And so he did. I think I mentioned it to you that it's you got to give it a shot at night. And we've got lots of people now, Adam, using it at night to get a deeper quality of sleep, to stay in that zone of REM sleep longer. And of course, we all know that renews, regenerates, recuperates, restores your body.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
And that's almost always I put them on it at night. So
nice.
Because it's usually the sleepers that need to get to sleep that's when I pull that out of my trick bag.
Very nice.
I had another woman.
We learned so much from all of you. Thank you.
Well,
you had another woman, yeah?
Who actually has 2 sons that are both in different forms of stress, teenage to in their 20s, and it's a lot of stress. So she bought a bottle kind of for her to sleep, but she wanted to see, if it would help them. And they actually have both asked for second bottles, and maybe they're on their 3rd bottles now.
Oh, really?
And so definitely supportive for for what you, Dr. Gant, originally, was looking at it for.
Okay.
And addiction support and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not sure addictions completely. One has pain and different things, and one just genetically has some pieces that look like could use some extra neurotransmitter support. So
we have a gal here that works in our offices with terrible ADHD kind of like symptoms. I mean, talk about attention deficit. She'll she's like squirrel. She focuses on her phone, and she has to like check her phone every couple of minutes to see if somebody has like texted her, and then you try to get her to do something, and she'll focus on that, and then she'll be focusing on her phone and this and that, and it's like her attention's going all over the place except for doing what she's supposed to be doing. And we almost fired her. I can't tell you how many times, because she just couldn't get the work done. She started herself on EndoLift, and her demeanor has changed completely. She's able to focus. Yep. She's able to relate to people. There's kind of a spark and a depth of conversation in her eyes, whereas before it was kind of like, I got anxiety, I can't focus, and I don't know what you're thinking, and you don't know what I'm thinking, and so there was all of this. It was terrible. It's a horrible place to be when your brain is so scattered. I think when we talk about genetics and getting those predispositions, understanding where a supplementation with enkephalins can be hugely important, especially in dopamine and all these other neurotransmitters that might be genetically lower in our lives. And then you have issues with like different cancers. I mean, it's a palette, right? And I am grateful that we have practitioners like you, Mary Jane, that allow us, you share stories to us about where these products are having benefit. It really, it gives us so many new and fresh ideas.
Well, it's such a great combination between us to be able to have the tools to use. And I love being able to tell people Ultra Botanica is a local company. The science was done at OMRF and, different places, but it just, for people who are embedded in Oklahoma, they love that connection.
It's local.
It's local. And it's the best.
We've been talking about EndoLift and neurotransmitters and supplementation and genetics and bioidentical hormones. I mean, has there been part of the human body we haven't talked about today?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
No, we have.
Maybe the toes.
The toes.
Yeah, I was going to say, we haven't talked about that pain in my little toe.
There we go. I had that this morning. No, it's EndoLift is a neurotransmitter product. It's 6 amino acids that are the precursors for the enkephalin system in the body: DNL-phenylalanine, methionine, leucine, tyrosine, and glycine. That's right. There we go. I don't always remember. You
did well.
Thank you.
We need to create an acronym for that so we remember it.
It's called EndoLift. There we
go. Okay.
And it's a drink mix, and it's people can self-regulate on it. You were telling Josh some interesting stories during the break about some guys that actually thought that it would be dangerous for them because it was so uplifting.
Yeah, and one of them's our dear friend, Kyle Drew, Super Health Radio Show. And Kyle had said, and this gentleman that's a good friend of mine in Florida as well, that they were taking a full scoop of that. And when it was originally created, we need to let people know that it was originally created as a unique tool by Dr. Charles Gant to help individuals that have an active addiction to opiates. And so they might even take as many as
methamphetamines.
Right, or meth.
Either one.
And they might even take up to 2 scoops a day at various times. And they find that as the brain is fed what it needs, that those drugs have been falsely stimulating, and so the body's no longer creating those, manufacturing those. They were finding that as they just continued to utilize these amino acids and maybe a couple of other supplements that Dr. Gant would recommend, that their actual craving for the opiates simply goes away. Yep. It's not like they even have to try, Mary Jane. It's really interesting.
I'll just give a brief example. So people that are opiate addicts, they're essentially replacing the enkephalins in the brain. The brain stops making enkephalins. And so you take away the opiates out of the person that wants to go into recovery. the brain is essentially going into crisis, neurotransmitter crisis. It doesn't have enkephalins.
And you run screaming and kicking back to the opiate.
And the brain literally will do whatever it needs to do to get those neurotransmitters back into function, including getting the stuff that's the artificial stuff. It's an interesting phenomenon for opiate addicts. When they first start using opiates, they'll get nauseous. And that nausea is because of the body is rejecting these artificial enkephalins, and then finally it gets over that, and then it uses those natively. And again, you take the opiates out or the methamphetamine out of the body, and the body essentially is in neurotransmitter crisis. So Dr. Gant said, well, let's rather than trying to, restrain the person, lock them up, sedate them, let's just replenish the neurotransmitters that were depleted and fix the problem at its root. And that's where EndoLift comes in. It's those 6 amino acids which are the precursors for the enkephalin system. And it's pretty magical stuff.
Yeah, and I'm glad we took that detour because I want people to understand what a beautiful tool this is, and we have such a crisis in the country right now.
It is a crisis, yeah.
So, but back to our story. So my friend in Florida and our friend Kyle Drew were taking EndoLift, and they were taking a full scoop at a time, and where I just kind of have this beautiful feeling of well-being, reduction in stress, anxiety, my thoughts are organized, I'm able to spin my plates without them falling and crashing to the floor. They would have a EndoLift high that went much higher than
I
mine.
remember the first time Kyle had his first cup of EndoLift.
Yeah,
he sat in the chair and he was like, ooh, I like this. I've never felt this good before.
Yeah, it's remarkable when you take amino acids on a partially empty or an empty stomach. They move across the blood-brain barrier so
Very
rapidly.
quickly, yeah.
And so within 5 minutes, people will feel this. Most everybody does if they take it during the daytime. But what would happen to them, Adam and Mary Jane, is that they would then go from this really much higher than where Josh Bellew is on EndoLift feeling to where they would feel like they fell off the cliff. Yeah. And so from there, it's just like the crash was so bad, it was just like, oh, I want to be back up there. This is not any fun. But we have found that when people take a much smaller amount of that, and that's what's cool about EndoLift as well, it can last some people up to 90 days, Adam, just one canister.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is really neat.
I think what I've seen is that people self-regulate. I have gotten
it's
myself.
Intuitive for me with EndoLift.
Yeah, I know when I need it, and I kind of look, oh, I need a cup of EndoLift right now, and I know intuitively how much I want to drink, and I don't want to do more, and I don't want to do less. I want to do that amount, and I know it's going to feed me in a particular way. And I don't know how I know this. I just know that this is kind of the right dosing for me.
Yeah, I was going to say we could do a whole show on just listen to your body, right? I'm serious.
Well, actually, yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I am not one that can muscle test specifically.
Okay.
But years ago, I went into the Whole Foods, and the woman that was running the nutrition department at Whole Foods was showing us that you could hold the bottle, and if you swayed forward, you needed it, and if you fell backwards, you didn't need it.
Right.
And,
Dr. Brian Frank does that, by the way.
That sounds kind of nuts, by the way.
I know it sounds pretty crazy, but it's pretty fascinating. So over the years, I have had women come in with their bottles or grab a bottle and they will test themselves. Better on bare feet than with shoes on.
Interesting.
Better not to have a weighted backpack. On first. No, I've had this one woman, she'll start and she'll muscle test, and then she'll go, oh, I better take the backpack off. And she'll test differently when she's got that weight on her back.
That makes so much sense.
So yesterday I had a new patient who she started talking about muscle testing. And I said, well, here, take this bottle and try it then. And I said, what kind do you do? And she said, oh, I just do the swaying method. And I said, me too. That's what I know. So she wants to learn, how you actually test, with the muscles.
More traditional kinesiology kind of thing.
But it's fascinating. And I can hold a bottle and I can fall forward or I can fall backwards.
Now, Kenzie Taylor, do you know Kenzie Taylor?
Only from your podcast.
She actually... this is where the hokey factor went out the door for me, because she says that they put the bottles in a bag when you can't see what's in there, and they can test consistently without knowing what's actually in the bag.
That's right.
See, I don't think it matters. I don't think that your mind is going to cover you.
Right, but she can actually, she's done A/B testing.
She's doing it. Okay,
she's like saying, okay, we're going to mix it up, and you're getting A in this one, and they don't know, and it's been consistent, whether they can see what's in there or not. So I do think there's something there.
There's energy. There's so much energy in our body that we just don't understand yet. And the blocking of the energies and those. So
I want to take a detour. We've gone into the holistic heights of the earthy, crunchy medicine of the universe and energy.
And I just have to mention, Dr. Brian Frank and Kenzie Taylor, if you followed them to their shopping experience, they just need a T-shirt that says, I'm a swayer. Because I kid you not, I kid you not, Brian will go and pick up something that says it's organic, at a store. And he'll put it up here. It's like,
nope.
That's not organic. Kenzie does the same thing.
They can feel it.
It's like, yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, can you imagine
telling
the difference between romaine that's organic
guys.
and not? Yeah, they're wonderful.
I have not gotten to the food swaying yet.
Okay, yeah. No, they do it at the grocery store. That's why I said it'd be fun to...
It might be a slow experience,
It is a slow shopping experience, or a slow morning taking your meds. The woman yesterday, I said, okay, why don't you test that one? Okay, why don't you test that one? She's like, I guess I just need to test everything. I was like, yeah, let's just have you test everything. Because for her, it was so important in her body chemistry that I didn't want to say, take that every day, because it'll accumulate if she's not, doing it. So she's going to do genetics, and maybe we'll be able to find some extra pieces that go with it with the genetics. So
yeah, those cofactors and minerals, right, and the enzymes that might be necessary.
Yeah, in those blocked pathways and things.
Yeah. Very interesting. So we promised our listeners.
You're wanting to take a detour.
I do. I've been chomping at the bit since you sent me some information earlier this week.
Right. And we've got about 5.5 minutes left in this segment. And by the way, this is UltraLife Today. You're listening to Mary Jane Frye, PharmD. We're having a lot of fun here, by the way.
Yep.
And Adam Payne's down on the end.
Okay, so here I'm gonna set the stage here. In the connective tissue, there's unique cells that are part of our immune system vigilance that you've learned play a critical role in our overall health and what's going on in the body. They're called mast cells.
I love it when I tell Adam something and he goes, what's that? I'm like, oh, I can't believe this guy didn't know what that was.
I know.
I love it. But he does admit it. He's a learner. He loves to learn. So
come on.
Well, and I found it on the internet recently that they were having a mast cell activation syndrome summit. And so one of the doctors was going to talk about I always say it wrong.
Oh, right. The Ehlers-Danlos syndrome with the hypermobility disorder.
Right.
Yes.
So somebody was going to talk about it. So I threw Josh some information on that speaker. But it's interconnected to mast cells and histamine. So you being the biochemist, you feed us into that side.
Well, I'm not a biochemist. I only play in that area.
He does wear a white coat and plays one on TV.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I don't. But it's mast cells are so our body is full of different sentinel cells and different cells that are responsible for immune regulation. And mast cells seem to play a very important role in connective tissue, the tendons, the ligaments, the fascia, all those parts of the body that are not directly connected to necessarily blood circulation, right? And so what I was fascinated to find was that mast cells have little pockets of immune regulating molecules in them, like they're called granulocytes, right? And some of these granulocytes have histamines in them. Some of them have other things that have to do with regulating the immune system in a particular way. And when the mast cell gets activated in a particular manner, it degranulates or opens up those pockets that then release these immune modulators and these immune signaling molecules into the space around where these mast cells are. So what have you found with these cells?
Well, mostly what I've dove into so far is just the histamine side of
Right.
when we were learning about allergies in pharmacy school. There was cromolyn sodium was just coming on the market, and so it was, if you can stabilize the mast cells, then you're stopping the allergic reaction earlier instead of just sopping it up. And so that's why I try to explain to people when it comes to just basic histamine and antihistamines is, if you're taking an antihistamine, you're at the end of the process and you're just sopping it up, trying to dry it up. And that's why you get the drying side of it all. But
Right.
if we can stabilize that mast cell with quercetin or cromolyn, then it strengthens the outer lining to where they can't burst.
Right, so they're not actually activating. So what I'm reading here from the internet is two of the granules. One is rich in heparin, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and we can talk about the function of heparin in a second. And the other is histamine. And there's a couple of other different, more than a couple of other different kinds of granulocytes in the mast cell, but. So let's imagine the body is recognizing an insult, that the mast cell then says, I am going to do my duty, and it releases that packet of histamines. What happens when histamines are released into tissue? What does the body experience?
Well, it's an inflammatory process.
Yes.
So it's causing damage to the other tissues.
So
causing inflammation and swelling.
Right. So it actually recruits other immune cells into the space. We get swelling. Mm-hmm. I know when I get a histamine reaction in my skin, everything turns red. It's like everywhere I scratch on my skin, it's like, we call it hives, right? That's the classic histamine reaction. When we get an allergic attack, we get, our nose swells up, we get stuffy nose, our eyes turn red. It's like the blood vessels suddenly become inflamed, bringing more blood to the tissues. Why do you think heparin would be there?
See, when you said that, I mean, I don't remember ever hearing that before.
Yeah, no, but imagine there was an insult like an injury.
Right.
And you would want heparin to be released into the tissues in order to
blood thinning.
Blood thinning, right?
To flush, yep.
Right. So if you get like clots underneath the skin near the connective tissue, you don't want those clots to be attaching to the connective tissue. So the heparin release would be like saying, get out of here, blood. We don't want you to be coagulating.
Isn't that fascinating that the cells can do that?
Yes.
That's
crazy.
Really cool.
It really is cool.
Yeah, that really is cool. So quercetin has gotten to be the big word since COVID started, because the cytokine storms, they started talking about quercetin as helping to calm those cytokine storms.
Right. It can
so
IL-6.
Everybody was taking quercetin,
as also as a cofactor for zinc, right? Because zinc needs a cofactor, and quercetin has been studied for its ability to help shuttle zinc into the cell. Did you know, and I'm sure you know this, and this is one of what lawyers call a leading question. Did you know that quercetin doesn't absorb well into the body?
No, I didn't know that. Really.
Okay, hold that thought. We will be back. This is UltraLife Today, and Adam Payne is mercilessly grilling us here and asking us questions, leading questions, counselor. That's Adam Payne on the end.
In this courtroom.
That's Adam Payne, CEO of Ultra Botanica, Mary Jane Frye, PharmD, nutritional consultant. I'm Josh Bellew. This is UltraLife Today. Welcome back to UltraLife Today. I'm Josh Bellew. Adam Payne, CEO of Ultra Botanica, is on the end, and we have Mary Jane Frye, our guest, once again on this segment. She's a PharmD. She's from our own neck of the woods, Oklahoma City here. I'd like to tell you how you can reach her. You can reach her at medicpharmacy@sbcglobal.net if you'd like to send an email to her. That's medic, M-E-D-I-C, pharmacy at sbcglobal.net. You can reach her by phone at 405-755-3921. That's 405-755-3921. And then the website is medicokc.com. That's medicokc.com.
It's such a delight to have you here, Mary
It is.
Jane.
Thank you so much
It's
for
fun.
having me.
Are you
It
having
is
fun? Yeah.
I am. I always get a little bit nervous until I'm sitting between you guys and we're just talking. And so
And that's what we do
it
here.
becomes fun.
It is fun. Yes, quercetin is a polyphenol.
Okay.
It has 2 phenolic rings on it, and it loves to bind to itself. And when it's bound to itself, it is insoluble in water, just like curcumin. And guess what we can do with insoluble polyphenols here at Ultra Botanica?
Special things.
Special
happen with
Special
that,
things. That's right. That's right.
that
So-
complex that
Yes, that
binds them
liquid protein scaffold technology, right?
very cool.
It is cool. It's what allows us to get curcumin into the body. We have curcumin conjugates with whey protein, brown rice protein, and acetylcysteine. We occasionally do it with cysteine. We don't like to just do it with cysteine. NAC is better. We've also done it with pea protein and blah, 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 blah down the road. But our favorites are whey protein and brown rice protein, and that's a whole discussion about why we use those different ones. But the same technology that works with curcumin, that gets curcumin into the body at exponential levels so that people actually experience the difference, right? To the chagrin of other companies that begin with the letter X. And
The
letter
products that
M.
you feel, that's
Yep.
why we call
and
it.
the tea.
Yes, they don't like us because, and I was talking to who's over at Flourish Pharmacy, Keith Bishop.
Keith Bishop.
Yep, and he was telling us that they've heard directly from the reps of other companies how they don't like Ultra Botanica because, and he was like, well, I'm sorry they
works.
don't like it, but it works.
It outperforms everything that they have. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the same technology that works with curcumin actually also does the same thing for quercetin.
Okay.
So we have a quercetin conjugate with N-acetylcysteine and with brown rice protein.
Yep. And Keith's brand new favorite. Has Keith been talking to you at the health meetups about his love affair with berberine?
No.
Oh
we have
my
not talked
gosh.
about
He
it,
is
but
taking deep dives into berberine, and berberine is a polyphenolic compound. So we actually
Okay.
have
Guess
2
what?
products here.
It does not dissolve in water, too.
It doesn't get in the bloodstream.
Yeah. So, Kyle
no,
Drew
it
calls us.
messes with my gut, though.
Yes, you know why? Because
Yeah,
it doesn't absorb.
Yeah, get ready.
And so,
Because
and
ours doesn't.
berberine is actually a very powerful antimicrobial too.
Yep.
So it wipes
Yes.
out commensals.
Right.
Right.
Does,
So that
yeah.
when we bind it to the protein, none of it gets into the colon. And so it doesn't mess with gut flora if you can get it to absorb in the body. So we do have a berberine conjugate with whey protein. And we have one with a product called Ultra Metabolic that's, I think that's the whey protein also, though I'm hoping we can move that to NAC.
Yeah.
In any case, why are we even talking? We're talking about mast cells and
Quercetin and
yeah.
mast
Well, we're talking about those histaminic reactions, and then we took a
We took a nosedive.
quercetin getting so, quercetin getting so popular during COVID
Oh,
because
that's
of
right.
the
Thank
cytokine
you.
storm and the inflammatory response in the body.
I had COVID about 3 weeks ago, and I was dealing with brain fog for a couple weeks. Thankfully, my brain has come out of a lot of that. I would hit a wall at around 2:00 in the afternoon, and my brain would stop working.
Well, we've made it to 3:30. So.
We have. No, I'm out of that brain fog piece. I'm
That's
so
good.
I'm so grateful. But quercetin is a powerful compound. There was an article that said it's actually more, if you can get it into the cells or to the body, it's more powerful than cromolyn in modulating mast cell degranulation. So we're really excited about what can be done with quercetin. I have some bottles of our ultra quercetin product I want to give to you, Mary Jane Frye,
Okay.
so you can play with it for some of your patients.
That would be lovely.
Would you
Yes.
do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
We're trying to learn to
Okay.
see where it has benefit for people, and we think it's going to be beneficial for these mast cell kinds of issues.
Right.
Have you tried it with the person that you know that has the Danlos syndrome?
No, have not yet.
That could be a powerful mitigator.
I have a patient with the syndrome also.
Really?
Yeah. So I can share with her.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this will be a game changer for people that
Would be
have those
lovely
kinds
to find that
of
out.
connective tissue issues.
Yeah.
If that mast cell activation is the defining characteristic of those syndromes, then being able to prevent or to strengthen the mast cell so it doesn't activate could be a game changer for them.
And I got a question for you, Adam, and Mary Jane, you may know it as well, but Adam's kind of my inflammation guy. He's the guy that takes the deep dive. What is the difference, Adam? Because, we were recognizing in the early days of COVID that getting curcumin in the bloodstream with our technology, UltraCur, that it was also helping mitigate cytokine storms in individuals
it's
that were coming
powerful.
down. So how does quercetin play into that same space, or are they coming at it? Is it working through different inflammatory pathways in the body?
So
Different
quercetin just deals with more of the histamine side of the equation.
Okay.
It does hit IL-6, and which is really important for a number of other different pathways in the body. We've actually developed it more to help support the healthy cell signaling in people that have cancer because of there's pathways called TLR4 and STAT3 that can be out of balance in people that have cancer, and quercetin uniquely modulates those. And quercetin can, I believe, is a cofactor for P53. P53 being the primary apoptosis pathway in a cell, which is responsible for cell death. Curcumin is like the big P53 activator.
Right.
But a lot of cancer cells, they stop expressing P53. And it's interesting. There's typically multiple pathways for a cell to express different ligands or these receptors. And P53 only has one path to express P53. And so it's common that cancer cells remove P53 and protect themselves inadvertently from dying. They become immortal because they don't have the pathway to die anymore, which is fascinating.
That's just the body's mechanisms gone haywire.
Exactly. It's one thing contributing to why a cancer cell is what it is. Right?
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? So where are we here? We have jumped across the world, and I feel like we're done the around the world trip in 80 days, and we're back in London.
Well, we kind of are. One of the things I wanted, that I love whenever we have practitioners like Mary Jane and Kenzie Taylor and Dr. Frank in, I love them to share a few stories related to specific issues that people have come in with. Like, for instance, Mary Jane, do you actually have people come in like this doctor's wife that was reading at the side of the pool and began to weep and says, "This is me, this is me"? Do you have ladies that come in that are going through these hormonal crises, and it's like their husband is going, "Who is this person?" And their children are going, "Who is this person?" And then you put them on a path. Can you think of a personal story to you like that, where it just all of a sudden the light has come on and the person is normal? And how long does that take for people when you're doing things in the hormonal system? Is it like months and months, or do things begin to change quickly when you begin to administer after you've tested?
So everything is dependent on the person, and it's the timing of when they come in.
Okay.
So I think now I have practitioners who are referring patients to me earlier on.
Oh, good.
And so we're able to fix things earlier. And I really like that.
Before there are the major crises?
Before the major crises.
Wow. Okay.
A woman yesterday came in going, "I'm really not that bad. I'm just a little bit off." And she had low B12, and she had borderline low vitamin D, and she had a couple other issues. And so I think we're going to be able to make differences in a hurry. for
Nice.
her with fatigue. And it wasn't really the hormones yet.
Okay.
She was in her 40s, and I said, hey, you know, we've got a good look at what the hormones are doing, but everything's still working pretty much. Then, you know, you get somebody who is just over the hump of menopause, and you fix a couple things, and it just snaps right back on, and it's fast.
Wow.
Other people, it's going to be a long process because the gut's gotten messed up. The stressors are out of control right now. Inflammation, you know, COVID bred overweight, bred stress, and we're trying to dig into all of those. And so it's not you're going to be well in a week.
So,
Well, there's also this, trauma, is a huge cofactor for a lot of these conditions. And I've seen we've talked to practitioners where the trauma defines people's relationships to themselves and others, and it sets up different neurotransmitter conditions, autoimmune issues that can happen because of trauma. Everything goes out of balance, right? When we talk about trauma, and then autoimmunity plays a huge role.
So a lot of that is related to the genetics also, because all of these SNPs that we look at in the genetic piece are light switches.
Right.
And they can be turned on or turned off. And reasons they're turned on are trauma, are hormone changes, are infections.
Right.
Everything that can turn a switch on or off is going to affect where you are in your cycles. So if you can change your exercise, if you can get better sleep, if you can eat better, get rid of sugar, get rid of inflammatory foods, it's going to be able to turn those switches back off. So it depends on how long the switch has been turned on,
Right.
how long it's going to take for that switch to get turned back off.
yeah, and there is no one size fits all, right?
There is no
you're
one-size-fits-all.
you're MTHFR positive, and then there are a couple of switches that are universal. I'm joking, but
Right. But the problem with that MTHFR is that everybody that's been tested, even if they're homozygous, they're like, oh, I'm MTHFR, I have to take 15 milligrams of methylfolate.
But that's not one size fit all, right?
It's not one size fit all. And it's, let's look at the rest of that pathway. Let's look at what's going on with inflammation and oxidative stress, because you might not need that large of a dose, and it might actually be causing you anxiety because you've got too much going on.
Right, and
So-
but that's where we need to look at the whole picture, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Boy, we need more people like you out in the world helping people. Most of us folks go through life completely oblivious to what's really going on with us genomically and biochemically. We need to be starting from that perspective. We need to know whether we're MTHFR recessive or homozygous. What is it? Homozygous or non?
homozygous or heterozygous?
Heterozygous, which means whether you methylate or do you not methylate. And there are so many different methylation genes. We need to know that first. A lot of us start learning about other things, and then we learn about our methylation pathways after the fact. It's so important to get these kinds of tests. Mary Jane, where can people call you to start a journey with you?
Oh, absolutely. Adam's been
let's give
doing
this
a great
information
job
out
with that.
again.
Josh has been doing that.
So, Medic Pharmacy at sbcglobal.net is a way that you can email Mary Jane Frye, and it's Medic Pharmacy at sbcglobal.net. You can call 405-755-3921. That's 405-755-3921. You can go to their website and reach out to them that way as well at medicokc.com. And we're going to a break now. This is UltraLife Today. I'm here with Mary Jane Frye, my guest, and I'm Josh Bellew, and Adam Payne is down there, and I guess she's your guest too, Adam.
We're each other's
Working on that
guests
friendship,
today.
right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You've joined UltraLife Today. Thanks so much.